Well, what's an int and what's a string? Well, those are two examples of data types. Just as the name implies, a data type is a classification or a type of data. For example, a string is a data type that describes pieces of text. An int, short for integer, is a data type for whole numbers, negative or positive. However, there are many more data types than just these two. Other types of data that you'll commonly be working with are float for floating point numbers or decimal numbers, and then there's double for decimal numbers where the decimal portion may be very large, and then there's Boolean, which represents true or false, or in other words, yes or no. These are some of the more common data types that you'll be using. And the reason why there are different types of data is because the system stores different types of data differently. And so when we go back to the playground and we take a look at this variable that we declared here, str, and it stores a string, the system has allocated this variable to store this piece of text, or string in other words. And when you try to assign an int into that same variable, it doesn't allow you to do that because strings and ints are stored differently. Now you might be wondering, what differentiates a variable that stores a string, like this str variable, versus a variable that stores a number or an int, like this variable a? Well, when you declare a variable, you learned in the previous lesson that you use the keyword var and then the name of the variable. Well, optionally, you can also put beside the variable name colon followed by the data type. And if you declare your variable this way, you're basically telling the system that this variable can only store this type of data. And if you omit that part and you just simply declare your variable with var and then the variable name, then what it's going to do is as soon as you assign a piece of data into that variable, it's going to take a look at what type of data that is and assumes that that variable stores that data type. So now going back into the playground here, it's as if we declared this str variable like this, inside a pair of brackets like this, inside an int. And then you'll get 14 without the decimal. Okay, so that does it for data types. Hello, welcome to Learn Swift for Beginners, Lesson 3. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to express some simple decision making in your Swift code using if statements. Alright, let's get started. So for this one, we're going to start a brand new playground. Alright, so we've done this before. Let's just call this one the if playground, and I'm going to store this on my desktop. Okay, so we're talking about if statements today. And this is really exciting because it lets us finally start to make decisions through code and express some sort of logic. So for example, check if it was exactly 10. You wouldn't do that because remember, this equal sign is an assignment operator. So what you need to do to compare if a is equal to 10, you use the double equal sign like that. You can see here it prints branch 3. Okay, so why don't we introduce another constant up here, let's say b, and let's have that equal to 4. I want to show you that your conditions for your if statements and your different branches can get pretty complicated, and you can involve multiple pieces of data in your condition. So you can go if a is less than 4, if you want to check b as well, and you want to say and b is less than 4, that's how you would do it. You would use this double ampersand sign, and now you're checking two conditions. You're checking is a less than 4 and b less than 4, and only if both of those are true are you going to get this branch here. So let's try that out. So if I set b to 1 and a to 1, then both of these conditions here are true, so it's going to print branch 1. However, if I set b to 10, right, it's going to just, see, it hits this branch 2 now, because a is 1, which is less than 8, and it didn't print branch 1 because this was false, right? Even though a is 1 and this part is true, we have to have this part to be true as well, because we're saying is a less than 4 and b less than 4, and b is 10 right now. However, you can also do or. So you can say, is A less than 4 or B less than 4? And in this case, either condition can be true, and that would cause it to go into this branch. So you can see now it is in branch, right? And I am, it's coming in here because 8 actually is 10, so it's printing branch 3. But if I surround this like that, let me put something else in here. Is A equal to 10 and B equals to 1, right? That is true. So that's why I'm still getting branch 3. But if I put an exclamation mark here, like that, it basically flips it around. So this evaluates to true, right? A is a 10. This evaluates to true. This whole condition evaluates to true, right? A is A equal to 10 and B equals to 1. And then, so we get true, but then we're adding this guy, these else-if clauses. Reading this is much more clean, and it's a lot easier to read as well. So what if you wanted, let's say, 2 different cases to run the same piece of code, or the same block of code? So for example, if I change this to say, is B or, a C, is a B or C? I could do something like this with this case label here. I can do that, comma, and then I can put this other case there. So this saves me from having to have another case C and then, the same code. I can put a comma here, put the other case here, and have either one of these cases use the same block of code. So now you can see that it comes into this case here, prints is it B or C instead of coming into default. So why would you want to use a switch statement over an if statement? Well, if there are a lot of different conditions that you want to check on a certain value, rather than using an if statement with a whole ton of else ifs, you can use this switch statement, which is easier to read and easier to understand. You're probably going to use the if statement more than the switch statement out of the loop. And then what I would do this way, I could move this print statement outside of the loop. And what this for in loop will do is simply loop from 1 to 5 each time, adding index to the sum. And now I'm actually keeping track of the sum. So you can see that after 5 iterations of the loop, adding the numbers from 1 to 5 into sum, which started out as 0, the result is 15 down here. And that's from this print statement. Okay, so I'm going to stop the lesson there. While the syntax for the for in loop is actually pretty simple, and the concept of repeating a piece of code for a certain number of times is pretty simple, I want to give you some breathing room to digest what we talked about in regards to the variable scope. So I would recommend that you try declaring and creating this loop on your own computer. Try declaring the variables inside the loop and outside the loop and see where you can access them and use them and where you cannot. It's really going to help and aid you in your learning. Hello, welcome to Learn Swift for Beginners Lesson 6. In this video, I'd like to introduce you to 2 more types of loops, and that is the while loop and the repeat while loop. And these 2 loops lets you execute some code until some condition is met. So that's different from the for in loop where it repeated a certain number of times. Okay, let's do it. For this lesson, we're going to create a brand new playground, and I'm just going to call this the loop 2 playground. Okay, so let's cover the while loop first. Take a look at this slide and let's go through how to declare a while loop. So the keyword here is while. Followed by that you have some sort of condition. It's very similar to an if statement. So the while loop is going to repeat that chunk of code as long as the condition is true. But as soon as that condition becomes false, it's not going. You can see eventually overflows and crashes. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am decrementing counter by 1 for each iteration of the loop. So as you saw, when I didn't have this line of code, it just kept printing hello many times because this condition would always be false. There was nothing changing the counter variable from 5 to 0. So I'm just going to warn you about that if you're going to try this on your own computer. If you have a slower computer, it might take a lot longer for you to get out of that loop. So you can write this statement first. Make sure you have a statement that is decrementing the counter. So again, this minus equals is the equivalent of writing something like this. Counter equals counter minus 1. So you're just taking whatever value counter is, you're minusing 1, because there are a lot more features of functions that we can use, but we're going to explore those in the next couple of videos. For this example, here is your kind of basic definition of a function. You start with the func keyword, that's func, followed by the function name. Now this function name is what you're going to use to call the function. Now right after the function name, you have 2 parentheses or 2 rounded brackets. In this basic definition, there is nothing in between these 2 brackets, no spaces, nothing. In the next 2 videos, you're going to see what those brackets are used for, but for now, those brackets are just there as part of the definition, there's nothing in between them. And then you're going to have a set of curly brackets. And as you would expect, in between the curly brackets, you would put the code for the function. So whenever you call the function name, that code in between those curly brackets, that code is going to be executed. Alright, let's jump into the playground and do some examples.
Pictures, documents, and so on. Those are components as part of your Windows account or Windows
So these are 3 different ways that you can utilize video in your slides.
Each user will have their own separate desktop, separate documents area, separate pictures area. And the way you find that is by going here under this PC, and then if you go under the C drive,
in this session I'll demonstrate how to insert audio
stored, and you go under
select one of the slides where you want to
then
insert
here
your
is
audio,
where you can see
start,
all the different
and then
users in
insert,
this particular
and then go under
So if I go here on
and then
this
audio on
account,
my PC.
notice I have
Then locate
desktop,
your
I have
audio
documents,
file,
downloads,
and then
these are the
go on
exact
playback
replica
here,
of what's
and then choose how you want to play this audio file.
So
You can
these are actually
relocate
the
this move
side, just
somewhere else,
important
by the way, on your
to what we see
presentation
here on the
so
right
that the icon
side.
does not show
You can
up.
use this
And you can
also for
choose to
backing
hide
up
the
files
icon,
on a flash
and
drive,
also
or
you can
an
choose
external
how
drive,
this
or however you want to do
play.
the backup stuff.
You
But
can
just
have it
copy
play
that.
automatically, and by the way you can click on the
Key
icon here to
concepts
get
here
those
is
playback
these
rules
quick links on the
and
left.
also it can play
how they
across all the
map
slides.
to,
So if you're
files
doing a
stored.
presentation where you're not
If you go
actually
here to this
presenting, but
PC,
there are
it's going to
pictures
display
or
the
there's
drives
content being
that exist on this
displayed, then
PC.
automatically it's
But also if you're
rotating
working on a
and that type of
network,
thing.
you'd see
You might want to
also
put sound on the
the
first slide
network drive.
and then click
And
on
those
play
network
across
drives
all the
typically
slides,
map like,
and you can choose also play
particular
until
letters
it
like
stops.
F or K
So it
or
loops
J
around.
or M drive.
And then,
Depends on how
now
the
if we were to test
system
this,
administrators
at this
set
point I
up.
have it so you click
This
on
is how
it,
you
but
access
we have
your,
checked it so it
storage in your
starts
PC,
automatically,
and then the files.
and then it will just keep on
Typically,
playing from
these
slide to
options
slide
here,
to slide.
the first 4 or
And notice
5 are typically by default.
Just keeps on playing. Now if we
PC.
go back and
Now
we want
let's
to
say
customize
that
it,
there
of
is a
course go and
specific
locate it on
folder
which slide we
that I'm
started,
working on,
click on the audio file here, and
I
then go
want
on
this
to
to
playback
show up
and
all
change
the
the
time here
properties
on the
for
left.
this.
So
And
let's say
that's
I
how
want
this
favorites
works
to be shown
in
here on the left, or I
the
want my
presentation.
music folder.
Now in some
show
cases as well, what you can do
You
to
can
insert
right-click
audio,
on that
you can also
folder
insert the
and
audio
choose to
by,
bin it
so I'm going to a
to
different
quick
slide
access.
here.
That will place
You can
it.
actually record your own audio segment or
So this music
section
now, anytime we
for a
open File
particular
Explorer,
function
it's going
to explain a
display
concept, so it'll be
a thing here
pre-recorded
for the
basically,
music
or you could
folder.
have somebody else.
So you can do that for any component or any
the
common
key here is
folders that
that you can record this from within
There's also the
PowerPoint
option to
without
drag
any
that
additional
over
tools.
there.
So in this case, you click
Working
on
with folders,
record
I
audio,
find that
and
most
then
users
simply
don't
press
fully
record,
understand
and anything that you
working
say,
with files.
it will actually be
Let's say I
captured,
wanted to create
and
a
it
new
will be a
folder
sound
here.
file
Click
embedded
on
into your
New
presentation. In
I
this
can
case,
choose to
this is
create
where
a
it
new
is.
shortcut or a new
And if I
folder and a new
present
bunch of other
this,
stuff here. For now,
click
I'm
on
going to
it.
create just a new folder.
It will be a sound
Click on
file
New and choose
embedded into
folder,
the
and then
presentation.
I can make it a folder.
And that's how
and
the
then
recording
you hit
works.
enter. You can
Your
move
own
a file
audio
into
file.
this folder. I can
So
do it a
you
couple
have
ways.
here
Let's
so
say I have
far
this
they
file right
inserted
here.
from
Now to move it
the
over
file
here,
from the
simply
PC
drag it
or
and
inserting
then
your
put it
own
in that
recorder.
Drag and drop,
Slide
it's
on
great
presentation,
as long
and
as you're
also controlling
precise. There's a
how
danger
that audio
in
file will play.
a drag and
Next,
drop.
we're going to
because
go
sometimes you
under
may drop a
screen
file
recording.
in the wrong
This is a new
place.
feature
So the best
in
thing to
PowerPoint
move files
2016
around
that
is
you can
by
capture a
simply
portion of the
selecting
screen
them. If
and
there are more
insert
than
it
one,
in your
then you can
slides.
simply
So,
either
stay
select all
tuned
of
for
them
that.
or select just a few of them, or you can hold the control key and select random ones, or you can click on the
In
first
this
one,
session, I'll
hold down
demonstrate
the
how to
shift key,
capture
and
a
then
portion
select
of
a
your
few of
screen,
them. And at this
record
point,
whatever you're
notice that
saying and
you
doing
can use
on that
these
screen
options
at
up
that
here. By the
particular
way,
point in
Microsoft
time,
Windows 11
and have that clip automatically embedded into a slide into PowerPoint.
and then we are going to move
So
them
here's how
somewhere
it
else.
works. So let's say we
This
have
is
a
the
slide
safer
here
way
that we
to
want to
move
have
files.
a concept
Or you can
demonstrated
also
or
right click
narration
and
or that
choose
thing.
here the
We
options.
go into the
Notice this
slide
changed as
and
well
we click on
in
screen
Windows
record.
11, these icons. It doesn't say
Now at this
cut
point, we
anymore,
go
copy.
and open the application
Unless you
where
hold
we
the
want
mouse
to
on
record.
it. Click on cut
So let's say
here.
this is the
Now I go
application.
back, navigating
And
to
then
the top
also
folder
we select
here,
the
or
area
go
that
to
we
the
want to
left and
capture.
use navigation.
So click on
left.
select
Enter
area.
the password. It will prompt you to enter it.
And if
It
you
doesn't
remember,
need
you
a
can go here
password.
to
In this case,
design
I
and
was
choose design
connected to
ideas
Google, that's
and
why it didn't
change
prompt
this
me. Then
however
it will
you
remember
want
those
as
settings.
well. So notice it
Under
gives you some
this
ideas
little
as to
icon here, you can also check
change
additional
this.
properties
Simply
related
click
to the
on
wireless
another
network.
design
To
format.
get to these settings,
Let's
obviously,
say I
you
like
can
this
go
one. By the way,
to the
let's
settings
refer
area
to
and Windows
the
search,
design ideas
and then
video on
choose
how to
Wi-Fi
use the design
settings,
ideas thing.
and then
But
choose
basically, we
show
have
wireless
these
networks.
stages here with the
And
original
this is where
slide.
you
We made a
pick
copy of it.
the
We added 4
So
steps
that's
to
another
it.
way to
And
manage
now
the wireless
for the original
network.
slide here, we go and apply the transition, the mode transition here. And now if we go and play this to present it, notice we have 3 steps.
In this module of
These
the
you can
Windows
animate the
11
objects
tutorial, I'm
one by
going to
one by
demonstrate how
using
to make
animation
a
and
link,
color
and this is
shortening.
really very basic,
Now when we
but
move
it's
to
one
the
of the
next
aspects
slide,
of learning about an
notice it
operating
shifts
system,
things around,
particularly
and
if
it
you're
makes
not
it
sure
more
how this is done. Once you have
presentable
connected your
and more
computer
appealing
to
as
the
well to the
network,
audience. So you have
whether
that
wired in a wired
information
way or a wireless way, and
from
for the
one
wireless, by
slide.
the way, refer to the
So,
tutorial
watch the
on
video again.
the wireless
Basically, you
network.
have to duplicate it.
Once you
That's the
have
trick.
done that, typically
Duplicate
you
an
need to
existing
use a
slide.
browser.
Add
The
new
default
content to
browser,
the next
and it's
slide.
included in Windows
And then
11,
the system
is
will animate
Microsoft
or
Edge.
change
This is typically
the
based
morphing,
on
the changes
Chrome background
into
pattern,
animation.
but it's very efficient. Now, of
Nice
course,
way.
other browsers are
Remember to
also
you might have to use the Windows key and then
In this
P,
module of
letter
the Windows
P,
11 tutorial, I'll
to
demonstrate
choose
how to
to,
adjust the sound
extend your
settings and sound
desktop.
volume in
So in
Windows
that
11.
way, the
For
external
some
monitor
reason,
becomes
this function has
the
become more complicated
presenter
in this
or
version
what
of
the
Windows.
audience sees, and
In the
then
past, we'd go here
your
under sound
laptop
and we
or
could
your
just go
device
and change.
becomes the one with the
Now,
notes.
as we
Now,
click on
I could
that
swap
icon
those,
for
what the
the
audience
sound
would
and
see, so the
volume,
audience would see
so this
this,
brings us the
and that's how
action
this
center.
works.
The action center here, one of the options is the sound. So if we click on the little arrow on the bottom, on the far right,
In this video, I'm going to
this is where we
demonstrate
can
how to use the
change
presenter
which
view in PowerPoint
speakers to use.
2016.
There are additional
The presenter view
settings
is used
here
very
as well
effectively in
that we can
conjunction with
adjust
notes in
as far as the
PowerPoint
sound
2016
goes.
by utilizing notes in each slide.
We
So for
can
that
get to this
portion of
settings
it,
also
please
by
refer to the
going here
inserting
under the
notes
search menu
in,
and
presentation
then
in
just
PowerPoint
typing sound.
2016. So to
settings.
utilize the presentation view, you'd need to
One
go
other
under the
option
slideshow,
is by
and then you need to
right-clicking
make
to
sure
scroll
that
down if
presenter
you move
view
the mouse
has
to
been.
the... So
And then
basically,
there is
let's
this
assume this is
option
the
here under
process is
Quick
taking most of the
Styles.
CPU.
Quick Styles
You
is
simply
basically
click on
you can
it and then you
select the
choose End
design
Task,
for
and
that
it's
little
going to
heading,
close that
and notice there's a
process.
quick
In some
live
cases, it may
preview
not
that
be
you
just the
get
CPU that
by
is
simply
slowing down
hovering
your
on
system.
any of
In
those
some cases, it may be
options.
certain apps that are taking
So
most
you
of the
select
memory.
the option that
So
you
you
prefer
can go
here,
here
and
and do
notice
the
there are
same
some
thing with
new
the
other
memory to
presets
identify
as
what's
well,
taking
and these
most
are
of
new
the
with
memory in
the
your
newest
computer.
updates
Other
from
times it may be
PowerPoint
that
or
the
from
disk
Office
utilization is
2016.
struggling, and that's how you can
So
identify
select
that you
what
have a
works for
problem
you, and
with the speed
just like
of
that,
your
it's
disk.
done very
Here
easily
you
and
can
quickly.
also identify
If you
how
don't
the
like that,
processor
you
or
can
different
simply go
components are
back
doing
to
over a period
another
of
one
time.
of
So if you
those
click here on the
quick styles,
CPU,
and again,
you'll
what
be
you
able
get
to
on the quick
identify
styles,
the
it might
usage
differ
under
from
the memory
theme to
usage, the
theme that you're
solid-state drives,
utilizing in your presentation. So if you're trying to
Wi-Fi,
get
and
the same
graphics
kind of
card,
background
and
or
so
the same
on.
kind of
Now,
content,
one of
then
the
you
things
need,
under the
or what you
performance
see
tab
here,
that comes in very
and it
handy
doesn't work on
is
yours,
also this
your
resource
machine, your
model.
end
This
there,
is going in
then
depth and looking at
potentially
as to what's
the reason for
happening
that is
behind the
because you're
scenes,
using a different
whether it's the
design. Depends
processor
on the design
usage,
that you
what
have selected
process,
here
how much,
under the
what
design
actual
options.
thread
So that's
is
how you use the
utilizing a
quick
certain
styles
service,
in PowerPoint.
and which potential service is causing the issues in the system. So notice you can do it disk-based. So let's say here, notice
In this
that my
session, I'll
antivirus
demonstrate how to
software
create a photo
is
album or
using quite a bit of the
presentation using
read-write data
photos
at
in
this point in
PowerPoint
the PC.
2016.
And the way you
There might be
find out
cases
what
where you
each
have a
one of
bunch of
these
photos
is, you can
that you
either
took from
Google
a specific
search
trip
them,
or
or
for a specific function,
there is a way
and
that
now
you can
instead of
also
you
find the
copying and
file
pasting and
location of the
resizing
PC, but
those
probably
photos
searching
in the...
to...
You'll have to go all the way to the end of the video. Now that we are done with it, you'll need to click to save this, to convert this into PDF. Personally, I would suggest that you save this first. Just save the file somewhere where you can find it, and that way, if the computer crashes or something happens
In this
the
session of
process
the
of conversion,
Windows 11
that
tutorial,
process
I'll
will take a
demonstrate
little
how
bit of
to
time.
access the
At
command
least you
line
have your
terminal
recording.
for Windows
Then we click here
11.
on
Sometimes
File,
you may need to run
and then we click on
applications
Export,
manually, or
and
just
then we
check
choose
settings or check
Create
things manually in
a
your
video.
computer. So
Now here,
you can
under
either
Create
go
Video,
under the
it's
search
asking us
option
as to
here
what do you want the
and then
quality
type
to
the
be.
word
Now right now I
command,
recorded
and
this
take you
on
to the
high
command
definition,
prompt.
so it's going to
And
be
this basically
1920
will
by 1080,
allow you
but
to
I'm going to change
access
it just for the
files
sake
or
of
to run
production,
specific
to produce
commands.
this
So
faster.
let's
Typically
say
you might
find
want
the
to have
IP
it
address,
1280 by 720 if you're
specific
going to
settings
share
in
it
your
over the
computer.
web. And then here it's going to use the recorded timings and narrations of, and
This is the
also
command
it's going
prompt
to
option.
utilize the
There's
voice
also
that we had
the
for the
option
recordings when we
to
did them.
access
Now we simply
the
click on Create
Windows
Video,
terminal.
and now it'll
Windows
ask us where
terminal,
do we
it
want to
actually
save it.
uses
So I'm going to click on
for a
it,
shortcut on
and
this
instead of you spending time
area.
designing this,
So again, that
all you
was
have to do
right-clicking,
is
so
simply
finding
change the
initially
name
where the program
of the
is
student.
located,
The other thing
right-clicking
that
on
you can
it,
do
dragging
with
it over,
templates
and then
is that
choosing
you
to
can go,
create
let's
a
say,
shortcut.
under the
Not
category
copying
here,
it, because then you're
Education, let's
copying
say.
the whole program.
And
You're
notice there
just
are
creating a
categories here on
shortcut
the
in
right-hand
order to
side
launch
as
that
well.
specific program.
And let's say that you needed to do
You
an
can do
academic
this
presentation
also
of some
with
sort.
other
So
applications.
you click here on the
let's say
template,
here
academic
we are in the
presentation,
All Apps
and
area.
then click on Create.
So let's say
It's
I
gonna
want one
download
of
it from
my
the web.
apps
Now
here
this
to
is with all the types of
open up
different designs
automatically
for it,
upon
so it's
boot
more
up. So let's
design
say
oriented.
I want Firefox to be one of
And
those
basically
programs. So I
you'd
can
fill in the
right-click
text.
here
However, in PowerPoint, there are
and choose
also
More, and
options
then
where
find
you can
the
actually create,
file location.
not
So
only
this is where
utilize the
the file
design,
is
but also
actually
you can
residing. The
utilize
executable for
the
this program
concepts that you can
is residing
include
in
in
the
a
PC.
specific presentation.
Now from
For
here,
example,
again,
if
I
we click here on
right-click it,
Business, on the category
and then
Business,
create a
notice we
shortcut,
have a
and
whole
now
bunch
both of these
templates here
programs
that you
will
can
open
use
up
for business
every time
presentations.
automatically.
If we go here,
once I
Business
reboot
Strategy
Windows 11.
Presentation, it's going to download it, and now it's going to give you a layout of your presentation, or your outline of your presentation. So you state the vision, you state the goals and objectives, a summary of the current situation, and so on and so on. So it basically